Mm.
But the public engagement process really leads us to a lot of that discussion and really focusing on meeting the needs of all the residents, what's working, what's not. Most of the time, I would say that at least 60% of our recommendations are about taking care of what people already own and updating those to really make them stronger and better and more functionally aligned with what people are looking for. And then the rest of that 30-40% really is about new or about the growth of the city and where that growth takes, where does park systems fall in line with that.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show Leadership Series, hosted by Craig LeBlanc, founder of DPRS Media Network, where we spotlight the visionary leaders shaping the future of parks and recreation. In this episode, we're honored to welcome Leon Younger, founder and president of Pros Consulting, one of the nation's premier parks and recreation consulting firms. For more than 30 years, Pros Consulting has helped communities develop innovative master plans, sustainable strategies, and thriving park systems across the country. Leon shares decades of leadership experience, practical insights, and proven strategies for building stronger organizations and creating lasting community impact. Let's dive in. All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show Leadership Series. Today, we're going to highlight a special vendor in the community that's been in this industry for over 50 years. Can you imagine 5 decades as a practitioner and then as a consultant? We have Leon Younger with us today, the founder of Pros Consulting. And I know many of our Parks and Rec professionals have recommended to DPRS Media Network that this is a very reputable company. It's been serving the industry for decades, and that we should definitely partner with them on creating content. And so today is our first live interview with Leon, the founder. And so we're going to go into his backstory of how he got into Parks and Rec and kind of what his career was like into it, and the founding of his company, Pros Consulting, and how he serves many Parks and Rec departments across America for decades, helping them to create master plans and strategic plans and that whole world of basically just planning how are we building your community's Parks and Rec department in 5 and 10 year chunks, kind of visioning out, understanding where you are and where you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years. And you know, it's very important to have a plan, and then not just have a plan, but then we'll talk to Leon about how are you working the plan. And so a lot of these documents become living, breathing documents that they should not just sit on a shelf after you do all the hard work of putting one together for a year. You should be working this plan, making adjustments, and constantly evolving it. So sometimes starting your master plan is just like step 1, or having the master plan is step 1. Step 2 is, all right, now let's execute this plan. And so I'm so glad to have someone in Leon with so much experience in helping Parks and Rec departments navigate these master planning waters and stuff. And I'm really excited about potentially creating a weekly show with him and his team, all about master planning and strategic planning. And so with that being said, let me go ahead and thank and promote some of the other shows. First of all, I wanted to encourage everyone to join our YouTube channel. All of our content library is now on YouTube and Spotify. And so if you want to learn more about topics like the Aquatics Life Show has everything about aquatics. On Friday, we've produced, I think we're coming up on our 20th show that we've done for them. You can really use this as continuing education. But also, if you want to learn more about the military rec, John Prue's been producing a great show every Tuesday for On the Front Line. All this can be found on YouTube. So we have our entire content library, all the content we produce. I think we're above, this is our 615th video today. So it's quite an extensive Parks and Rec content library. Carla, why don't you go ahead and pull up the TV guide? This one's a little dated, but soon we'll have 21 different shows by the end of this month. So I think there's 11 shows right here. We're shifting the times a little. So we're going to have a new 1 p.m. time slot for a lot of the shows that you're seeing. So that means we're going to have something going out every day at the 12 noon time slot, Monday through Friday, the 1 p.m. time slot, the 2 p.m. time slot, and the 3 p.m. and the 5 p.m. So that's literally what 5 different time slots that are filling up with Parks and Rec content that you can see live. And I encourage everybody that during the live shows, definitely find us on LinkedIn or Facebook or X and go into the comment section. And if you have a question for me or the show guests, you can put it up there and we'll answer your questions live. We have a lot of some of the greatest experts in Parks and Rec across the country on our show. And a lot of times they have the wisdom that you're looking for. If you've been given some project or some festival or some zoo that you've never managed before, some of the best zoo managers and aquatics professionals are on our shows. And part of it is connecting you to the wisdom that they've earned over the many years of working in Parks and Rec. But with that being said, let's go ahead and run the promo, and we're going to promote a couple of the shows that we have. We're going to promote the Smart Parks Forward and the Parks and Tech Collective. These are two technology shows that air on Monday. And then when we'll come back, we'll start our conversation with Leon.
The future of Parks and Recreation isn't coming, it's already here. Across communities everywhere, technology is transforming how parks connect, engage, and serve the people who rely on them. From smart amenities and connected infrastructure to real-time data and innovative solutions, a new generation of parks is taking shape. Welcome to Smart Parks Forward, presented by DPRS Media Network and co-produced by Outdoor Link. Each episode brings you the leaders, innovators, and visionaries driving the future of parks and recreation. Discover groundbreaking ideas, real-world success stories, and the technologies helping agencies create safer, smarter, and more connected communities. Because great parks don't just improve spaces, they improve lives. The future is connected. The future is intelligent. The future is now. This is Smart Parks Forward.
Technology isn't just changing devices, it's changing communities. It's changing how we connect, how we lead, and how we create experiences that bring people together. Because today's parks and recreation industry isn't only about fields, facilities, and programs. It's about innovation, smart systems, digital experiences, and the people transforming ideas into impact. Behind every thriving community, there are leaders embracing change. As technology evolves, parks and recreation professionals are discovering new ways to create safer spaces, stronger connections, and better experiences for everyone. This is where conversations meet innovation, where ideas become action, where parks and technology come together. Welcome to Parks and Tech Collective, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
All right, Leon, welcome to the show. How was y'all's 4th of July weekend?
Oh, it's good. A lot of family, a lot of fireworks. It was
Yeah.
good. Hot.
You're big into the grandkid days of your life,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
How many
6
grandkids you got?
6. They're all
6.
fun.
Man, that's some of the best times.
Yeah.
Watching them all grow up.
It's fun.
Yeah. All right. So tell us kind of your background into Parks and Recreation. I know you spent many years serving the Parks and Rec industry as a practitioner. So how did you discover Parks and Rec? Did you kind of know about this as a child, or did you discover it later in life?
Well, I worked when I was in high school. I was a lifeguard at our small town, and I was living in western Kansas in a town called Waukene, Kansas. And out of that, I got into scouting as well. And so I really kind of had a love for the outdoors, as well as having worked and done some work as a lifeguard. And once I got into college, there was at Kansas State, they started a new curriculum for Parks and Recreation. And that curriculum, there was only 7 of us in that in that group. It was the Park and Recreation Administration program. And so we were the first 7 that actually started it. And that school has continued to grow and have a lot of great practitioners and professionals have come out of that school over the last 50 years. But that's how I got started. I really wanted to get into coaching, but then I really found that Parks and Recreation was something I enjoyed more, and it really had a good focus for me anyway.
Yeah. Now, we've had actually a lot of Eagle Scouts that are now Parks and Rec directors that have come into Parks and Rec. But tell us about those scouting days. How deep did you go down that one?
Well, I got to life, and I did make
That's
it
the
all the
second.
way to Eagle.
Yeah, that's
So,
one
but
step away.
one step away, but I enjoyed it. We did a lot of different trips, up to the backcountry, clear up to the boundary waters up in Canada and stuff. So it was a great experience, and it was good. I enjoyed that part of being outdoors and seeing all what really at that time Parks and Recreation people were doing and administering in terms of camping and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I love about the Scouts is they really kind of put you in charge of the younger guys, especially when you get up into those upper levels and stuff. So there's a lot of leadership opportunities there that you kind of carry with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great experience. I still have a lot of great memories and a lot of great friends that came out of that group
Yeah.
of friends. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was your first job in Parks and Rec? Kind of tell us that journey into Parks and Rec and how long you did
Well,
that.
actually, in the summer, our small town of about 2,500 people had a recreation district just for the summer, and I was hired to be the summer director. And so I opened up all the gyms and did all the baseball programs for kids, and was part of the opening and closing up the pools and also the baseball games and getting the teams organized. And so that was the summer director job that I did. And I did it for 2 summers when I was a junior and senior. And then I did my internship at Johnson County Park District in Kansas City, which is the largest park district in Kansas. And so that got me in. And my first job was actually to work in Garden City, Kansas, which is in southwest Kansas. A town at that time was about 15,000 people. And I was the recreation director for the city. And in Kansas, their recreation districts. And so I did that for about 2.5 years. And I got a call from the director in Johnson County to come back and apply for the recreation superintendent position. And so I got that position in Johnson County, and I was there for 7 years as the recreation superintendent. It was really a great experience, but a lot of challenges during that time as well. And during those challenges was really the way that we had to operate the park system at that point in Johnson County was uniquely different than what I was doing out in Western Kansas in a smaller community. But it was fun in Garden City because you touched everything. You touched seniors, you touched all of the sports groups, you highly involved in all of the aspects of small town recreation park system at that point.
And when you say superintendent, were you ever exposed to the project management work order side or mostly on the programming side?
On the program side. So the recreation superintendent, we had at that point 18 senior centers, and I think we had 5 management pools we had at that point, and sports complexes. And Johnson County at that point wasn't as large as it is now. It was like back in the 400,000 square. But it was really unique is that the recreation division had to be 100% self-supporting. We didn't have any tax dollars. And so we had to manage the whole recreation side as a business. And that really kind of changed my whole focus and understanding of recreation and what recreation does and how it could operate as a management business in a system with a strong park system. And that time, Gary Haller was the director, and he was a phenomenal director, but it was really hard to grow that, but he was very supportive through the process to get us there. And they still operate that way today in Johnson County.
Wow. So you mean to tell me a Parks and Rec department can actually thrive without tax revenue? That's possible, right?
Well, on the recreation side, not overall. It would be really hard to do.
Yeah. And that's great. And it's still running that way today?
Yeah, still running that. And, they've had some great directors through there. and right now they're still operating. They've been a gold medal finalist and have won the gold medal a couple times. So it's a well managed system.
Oh, fantastic. And then what was your next step in your journey?
Well, actually, when I was there, I got recruited to go over to Jackson County, which is the same in the city of Kansas City, only on the Missouri side,
Mhm.
to be the director of Jackson County. And
Mm.
Jackson County at that time had passed a major bond issue to build 3 reservoirs. And so I was the director over those reservoirs. They were core reservoirs, but we did all the recreation development side.
Mm.
So we put in the golf courses, the community centers, the sports complexes, the campgrounds, all of the trail system, the
Wow.
beaches. And so we were part of that whole development.
Yeah.
And so I got to experience all of that from scratch and to actually put it in place and to organize it. And so I did that for 5, 6 years, and then got recruited to another job up in Cleveland, for a park district up in Cleveland, which was Lake Metro Parks. And Lake Metro Parks had passed at that time, was the largest park district bond issue in the state of Ohio to
Mm.
basically build the Lake Metro Park system. And that's Cleveland's made up of 5 park districts, and Lake Metro Parks is on the east side of Cleveland. And so I was up there for about 5 years and actually had a lot of fun building that system
Yeah.
and putting it in place. And it was at that time we acquired a lot of property to basically support the park system. And it was very environmentally based, nature based, but it had recreation elements like beaches. And we put in a farm park that's been in place now for 30 some years. And it was a great experience as well, different than what I was doing in Jackson County, but really still a great experience for me.
Yeah. Now we're starting to see where all this wisdom's coming from. It's work life experience.
Yeah.
Now, was that your last job in Parks and Rec?
No, and then I left there. I was recruited again to come to Indianapolis. A new mayor was brought into Indianapolis as a city-county combined system, and a new mayor recruited me to come to Indianapolis and to become the park director here. And I've stayed in Indianapolis since I was here. But I was with him for the first 4 years, and he ran for governor, and I was an appointed position. So I knew at that time I was going to be out because the mayors bring their own people in. And so that was a good segue for me to start Pros Consulting. And I decided that I thought about it for a long time, and I had a lot of people in the industry I had a lot of respect for, who I used as advisors to give me feedback about whether this could actually work, because most of the planning in Parks and Recreation was done by landscape architects.
Yeah.
And so I was coming at it from a practitioner's perspective, from an operational perspective, and it really opened up the opportunity to really start that thinking from a practitioner side versus a landscape architect side.
Yeah. And what year did you start that?
In 1995.
Oh,
And
wow.
so since then, that's what we've been doing. We've been kind of focused on 5 or 6 key areas: master planning, feasibility studies, doing maintenance management plans, strategic plans, financial plans, organizational plans for park systems. We've worked with over 1,500 park systems throughout the United States, and it's really given us a good entree into a lot of what happens on a daily basis in this field. And also, we feel like we've made a big impact in helping people work through a lot of the issues they're dealing with.
Yeah. Now I know there are several other, I guess, consulting companies doing similar work today, but back then, were you the only one? Not a
No,
landscape architect?
Greenplay was which is now Barry Dunn,
Yeah.
but they were started right after we did, and about a year after we did. And so they were one of the people that were involved with that. And then several other landscape architect firms kind of got into the operational side versus just the landscape architect side
Mm.
of Parks and Recreation. So, and there's been a lot of other Ballard King and folks like that have also got into the whole operational side. So there's a lot more people in that now than there was when we first started. But certainly, it's been very rewarding and
Yeah.
great to work with so many great agencies and so many great people.
Yeah. And so in those early days, it was just you. And then tell me about how you built your team over the years.
Well, and a lot of people who had worked for me in the past, who
Oh,
were really good practitioners, I recruited them to basically join us. When I first started pros, one of the guys that was here, Rick Roberts, was working for a landscape architect firm. He was a partner, and he was one of the first people we hired. So I kind of got somebody who'd already been in the operation business side of planning, who assisted me in getting that going, and then people who had also worked with us, who were practitioners and who had actually worked with me in the past at some of the other agencies. They also came in and worked with me. So it was people I already knew and knew what their capabilities were. And we just kind of started out with originally with about 5 people, and then it grew to 7, then it grew to 9, then it grew to 11, and as we're where we are today. So it's been, we've always tried to not overextend ourselves, but really
mhm.
stay very functionally focused.
Yeah. And so how many team members do y'all have today?
Well, we have 14 full-time staff and a couple, 3 or 4 part-time people who work with us
Mhm.
right now consistently and over the number of years. And then we use a lot of part-time contractors that help
Yeah.
us. They have specialties that we don't need all the time, and we have a lot of great partners across the whole network of United States that work with us and are really great partners for
Yeah.
us.
So how many partners do y'all work with to kind of bring on some of these projects do y'all have?
I'd say we probably work with 20, 25 different partners in
Mhm.
different disciplines across the country. And what's interesting, a lot of these folks they have a really good network in certain states and they have a good reputation. So we work with their reputation and ours. We recognize that it's hard to be a lead on all of these kind of things. We probably are more a lead, I would say, about 40%, 30 to 40% of the time, and we're a sub to somebody else the rest of those times.
Mhm.
And we recognize the industry keeps changing, and at different times there are different needs that people have that they want what more a focus on. So
Yeah.
master planning is something most agencies do every 5 to 10 years. Strategic plans people typically 3 to 4 to 5 years. We know financial plans are really done pretty much every 5 years. And as you look at those kind of situations, when people pass a bond issue or they wanting to go after a major bond issue, they usually do a planning process in advance so the public really knows what they're voting for and what they're really centered on. And so we kind of get started with that and that kind of operation.
So what's the difference between a master plan and the strategic plan?
Well, strategic plan really focuses, are we doing the right things and are we doing them right? So it's very
Mhm.
operational focused about how you think, how you operate, what your really goals are for how you want to deal with land and with partners and with funding.
Mhm.
Master planning really focuses on day-to-day management of land, facilities, operations, maintenance, financing, staffing, capital strategies that are associated with what you're going to update or create or build new, land acquisition strategies, trail strategies. It's much broader and much deeper.
Mm. Okay. And so I wanted to kind of make this show because there's so many topics we could talk about, but let's try our best to stay focused on just the master plan itself. So imagine you have a new director to a new city. They really don't have a master plan or have an old one that they haven't dusted off. It's sitting on the shelf. Kind of what's kind of the first steps that you want to start taking towards creating a new master plan for a department?
Well, the first step is really public engagement in terms
Yeah.
of what people's understanding or expectation of the park systems are, of the system is. You know, people today, I mean, park and recreation has such a wide age segment appeal to users of all age groups across any city or county or park district. And I think the big thing is we're trying to make sure that the park system is addressing their needs. That's number one. Two is really an understanding of what is being used and what's not being used. A lot of park agencies maintain things nobody uses, and you have to ask yourself, why am I doing that? And the
Yeah.
intent is really how are they managing this money they do have, the facilities they do have, how to really maximize their value, and what percentage should be left in an open space level or a natural state, what should be developed, how well are they serving the community in their programs and services. Programs activate spaces, and so consequently, the ability for programs either be self-directed or really organized really helps to bring a lot of recognition and value to the park system. Out of that work, we do a full assessment of all of their facilities, their amenities in the parks in terms of where they are in their life cycle. And all of the park systems have a certain level of life cycle.
Yeah.
And so that tells us what this park system is worth, but also how much it needs to be taken care of. And then there's always this stuff about building new and where it needs to go. So, equity and access is always important.
Mm-hmm.
But the public engagement process really leads us to a lot of that discussion and really focusing on meeting the needs of all the residents, what's working, what's not.
Yeah.
And then once we get into the capital side of it, it's really what needs to go first, second, and third. Most of the time, and I would say that at least 60% of our recommendations are about taking care of what people already own and updating those to really make them stronger and better and more functionally aligned with what people are looking for. And then the rest of that 30-40% really is about new or about the growth of the city and where that growth takes, where does park systems fall in line with that.
Yeah. And so the first step is, I guess, going to be engaging the community, finding out what, how do they feel about, what's currently being offered? What would they like to see? How do y'all help, or do y'all help with that community engagement piece?
Yeah. Well, we contract a lot with it, but we also do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Certain towns have public engagement people who everybody trusts. And so it's always good to work with people who are already there and have a great reputation. But sometimes we do it ourselves. It just depends on each community and what their cultural structure is. But we do that through individual stakeholder interviews, focus group meetings, public forums. We do projects actually where you're in the park system and people come to you while you're like at a major event, get feedback there. We also do a citizen survey that's typically a statistically valid survey that matches up with the the demographics of the community, plus or minus 3 or 4%. So it has a lot of validity, especially if you're looking at any type of tax issue. We also do online surveys as well. So people who basically didn't get one in the mail through a statistically valid process can still give us feedback through online surveys. And that gives us a really good blanket overview of that. And then, having public forums is good. And, there are a lot of people who just want to tell their story to you verbally and in front of their friends and neighbors about what they're looking for. So those are, and the focus group meetings and are really good in leadership meetings, because the leadership, every town's got 50 people who call the shots. The big thing is making sure those people see themselves in the plan so they'll advocate for it.
Yeah. And so what's considered a good percentage of population? So let's say you've got like a town of like 50,000 people. Do you want to try to get 1% or 0.1%, or where do you say, okay, this is a good enough cross segment of all the different people we're serving?
Usually in the 3% category is what you're trying to do. So 400, is a kind of if you had 50,000 people, 400 to 500 surveys returned would be good. We kind of look at that. We work with a firm, ETC Institute, out of Olathe, Kansas, and they've been working with us since we started PROS. But I actually worked with them when I was a practitioner.
Okay.
And so they do public park and recreation surveys across the United States, and they're one of the largest survey companies for parks and recreation and transportation in the country.
Yeah. So it seems like there's always people in a community that are very outspoken, and sometimes it's hard to get the ones that don't speak up and get their opinion, even though they might be the biggest users of your park and rec. They're kind of silent. How do you kind of pull their opinions and their thoughts out of them?
Well, we have to ask all the time, who are the real leaders in this community?
Right.
There are a lot of people who have a lot to say, who have a lot of influence, who will never come to a public meeting or never do a survey, but they find their way into really pushing people into certain directions. And we need to know who those people are so we can interview them either individually or in a group if they'll do it. So, and it's important because like every town, I don't care what city you're in or what county you're in, there's always people who what I consider are the key leaders who have the most influence on how people think.
Yeah. Now, do y'all help them also identify and maybe start the relationships with some of the, private partnerships that
Oh
sometimes
yeah,
can contribute on the funding side?
public-private partnerships is really the big movement, really in the
Mhm.
last 10 years, or more than that, probably 20 years.
Yeah.
The partnerships today with health service providers, environmental groups, conservancies, park foundations, school districts, universities. I mean, hospitals are all major contributors to parks
Mhm.
and recreation, and all have such great value that they can add to and it really legitimizes the park system even more when you bring partners into the process. And
Mhm.
those partners have a great influence. They have their own set of network of people, and they can bring a lot of value when you go for a bond issue, or you're involved with any type of a tax issue, or they also bring money to the table when you're talking about reinvestment in certain capital improvements, that they can bring dollars to the table as well.
Yeah. So what makes a good private partnership? Are we talking mostly about the big employers of your community that have a lot of their employees living and using the park systems? It seems like they would be obvious targets for this.
Well, typically, small towns, a lot of times individual farmers have a lot more money than a lot of people think that
Yep.
they do.
Right. And the big
But
landowners.
there are public partners like school districts and universities, and utility companies, and
Yeah.
then there are public not for profits that are out there that have a lot of support, and then there are public private partners, and each one of them carry different influences. And really, what is it that they want to get out of this, and what are they looking? How evenly can you make that partnership a 50-50? Unless it's 50-50, it makes it really hard, because at some point there, you create too much entitlement, and then it makes it political if you ever want to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we've reached the halftime part of our show. I wanted to thank a couple of our show sponsors. Soon to be one of our great show sponsors is Pros Consulting, but two that have been with us for a while is Outdoor Link. If you've ever wanted to become a smart city or a smart park, they're doing some great work across America in every state, really helping connect your infrastructure to your iPads or your desktop, so you can control all your splash pads, bathroom door locks, sports field lights. And then the National Academy of Athletics partners with Parks and Rec departments to help do the programming that maybe you're not equipped for. So if your community wants a pickleball league or a flag football league, they can actually staff all that and do it turnkey and still stay very focused on making sure every child has access to your programming. So, Carla, why don't you go ahead and run those two commercials, and then when we come right back, we'll finish up our conversation with Leon.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
All right. So back on master planning. So let's just say that you've got all your community input. And I think at the early stages, aren't you just trying to define who you are, where you and your infrastructure is currently? And then now you're into the part to where now you're trying to say, where do you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years? Am I framing that correctly?
Yeah, and you really look at the demographics of the community, what's shifting in the community, what's growing, what areas are, changes that are occurring, so that you're addressing not only what their program needs, but what are their park needs and in the area that we're studying. So a full master plan looks at the entire city, looks at all the water, whatever natural resources they have, and looks at not only land, facilities, but operations, maintenance, capital. So you're studying all of the elements associated with what makes a great park system.
Yeah. So what are the common changes that you've seen over your career where you'll see here's the last 5 to 10 year master plan, but we've seen the city, maybe the demographics evolve. What are some of the changes that you've seen?
Well, back in the 90s, as an example, tennis was such a big deal. Everybody wanted tennis courts. It was like crazy.
Right.
And it's kind of like what pickleball is now. Everybody needs pickleball more and more, which is growing, and I understand it. But tennis went through that same process. Golf went through the same process. There was never enough golf courses. Everybody wanted more golf, and so all the park systems were really being pushed to build public golf, and really public golf did a really good job and really responded to that. And then there's been some readjustment over the years in terms of the balance between public and private golf courses. Trails, obviously became a really big deal in the late 90s, and has continued to be one of the best things that ever happened to the park system, is linking all different types of trails, loop trails, signature trails across, and national trails that really have helped bring a lot of recognition and self-direction for people to use trail systems, and has helped define communities and waterways and really quality of life and health and wellness across the systems. And so trails have become a major component of parks and recreation, and it's been great for the industry as well. And then you really start looking at all of your indoor and outdoor facilities that are associated with, back in the 70s, it was neighborhood centers, and it went to community centers, and it went to regional centers, and it went to field houses. And so everything kind of changes based on growth and activity and what people are willing and how people recreate and what's really important to them. So the growth of different types of centers, and now we have specialty centers. We've always had senior centers, but now there are art centers and more different types of specialty centers that are associated with parks and recreation systems. And so the system has grown based on certain aspects or interests that the public or nationally was occurring, and that has helped the park system to really demonstrate what its capabilities are and what it is capable of, how it can serve the community. But every town only has so much money. The big thing is, most of the time, parks and recreation is about 4 to 6% of any city's total budget. So you kind of look at that and you go, okay, it's hard to be able to get more than that when you have so many other needs like police and fire that need to be taken care of, in planning and public works and all that kind of agencies. And so park systems typically are in that category. If it's below 4%, they really struggle. There's a few agencies above 6%, but they're kind of in that category.
Yeah. And then I think this is probably where strategic partnerships, private partnerships come into play. That if you really want to expand your budget, you need to reach out to the community and have other contributors to that bottom line.
Right. Well, just think of the growth of conservancies over the last 20 years. I
Right.
mean, conservancies really were hardly heard of back in the early 2000s, but now there's well over 3,000 conservancies around the
Wow.
United States who basically are helping park systems. They do elements of a park system, and they take on certain aspects of it, and they're very creative. And I mean, and that's been a great lifesaver for a lot of cities and park systems across the country, both whether you're a park district or a county system or a city system.
And y'all work with all the above conservancies, park systems, park districts. You'll work with all of them.
Yeah, I just got off the City Park Alliance board. I've been on it for 9 years and just went off this last month. And so
Yeah.
consequently, the City Park Alliance is a great element. It's a complement to NRPA, but it's mainly focuses on the really the conservation side and really urban parks is their big focus. So.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I don't know if you know Justin Cutler over there in city of Atlanta, and then Jesus was, I think, your
Oh
host.
yeah, Jesus. We were
Yeah,
just in his town. We had
that's right.
the conference there about a month ago there.
Yeah.
So
Well, tell a little people about that. Is it the City Alliance, City Park Alliance?
City Park Alliance,
City Park
yeah.
Alliance.
So it's comparable. It's not as big as the NRPA. NRPA,
Mhm.
has 18, 20,000, 25,000 members. City Park Alliance is more in the 2 to 3,000 category.
Mhm.
But it really focuses on urban parks and how
Yeah.
urban parks operate and function and their contribution to an urban setting.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and there's a lot of great cities over there. I was gonna try to attend it with the Daily Parks and Rec show, but we couldn't. I found out about it last minute, so
Oh,
I kind of want to
yeah.
attend that
It
meeting
was
next year.
they only do their conference every 2 years, and
Oh,
so
okay.
it last time it was in Seattle, it was sold out. This time it was sold out in Austin too. So I mean, they
Yeah,
filled their shows. So
yeah. Are you still going to be attending as a vendor over
oh
there over
yeah.
the years?
Well, once it's in your blood, you want to be a part of it. Plus,
Right.
we have a 25-member board, and they're all good
Yeah,
people and great professionals, and you want to stay connected to them.
yeah. All right, so let's go on to the next step. So now you've got, what's the next step in kind of creating that vision of who you want to be as a Parks and Rec department?
Well, I think the vision really centers around several things. One, what do you want to be known for? Great park systems have a certain understanding of what they're known for and what does the system want to be known for. Some agencies, you're a lake-based system. Sometimes you're more of an urban system. Sometimes you're more of a suburban system. But what do you want to be known for? You want to be known for being environmentally focused, being more developed focus, more sports fields focused, more indoor focus, based on weather and where you are. The intent is that knowing what people's expectation and then being able to manage towards that understanding and delivery on that takes a lot of effort and usually a good amount of money. And you also have to have a really good operating philosophy about what you can and can't do. And there's nothing worse is when you build something and you can't fill it. And other people
Yeah,
say, we built that, but you can't fill it, or
right.
it's too small and everybody's crowded and nobody's happy. And what is that right balance between how the system needs to meet and what does the facility, indoor, outdoor, need to do for the community? And having a good understanding of that and its capability and its capacity is a strength that really helps people in the master planning process.
Yeah. All right. So then once you hand them the master plan, and this is typically like a 1-year process to create a good master
Yeah,
plan.
usually. Yeah, but some a little bigger systems are a little longer than that, but
Yeah.
usually around people strive for a 1-year process. And then we give them an action plan. And the action plan
Yeah.
is here's year 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's what
Nice.
and the action plan is what you build your budget around. And every year, when you can get in front of your councils, you're basically, here's what we accomplished. Here's what's next on the radar. This is what you approved. This is what we're asking for. This is what we're moving on.
Yeah. And this is kind of like the execution stage. Now, do
Yeah,
y'all kind of
right.
stay engaged throughout the process?
Sometimes people will invite us back to help solve an issue or to help them deliver on something. But that comes and goes depending on what the client is looking for. But our job is to encourage them. And, I like to call back and see how they're doing on their plans. We get enormously excited when they pass a bond issue off of a plan, because we know that they're going to implement elements of the plan. So we're excited for them.
Yeah. And so what are the common mistakes departments make when it comes to master planning or getting community engagement or execution? What do you see as some of the common mistakes departments make?
Not acting on it.
Yep.
Here we've got all this work, we got all this input, and then all of a sudden they don't take the time to act on it. And so you have to plan to act on it. If you're so busy just doing what you're doing and can't act on your own vision, it makes it really difficult for people to convince you to do something in the future, because people, the first thing they'll say is, what happened to the last plan? What did you implement out of your last plan? And if you say, well, we didn't do a lot, then people say, why are you doing this? And so consequently, the important thing is being able to demonstrate and act on your own vision, their vision, and you put it into place. And that takes constant communication with elected officials through the budget process, and also through policies and management of making sure that those opportunities are in front of them and acting on their own vision.
And so I'm imagining that a good department is this is not just the director's job. It really is, I would imagine, important for them to involve the rest of their team in all of this. So how do you maybe recommend that you get your whole team on board and engaged with the plan?
Well, typically we encourage them to have, every 3 months have an update to the board of where they are, or every 6 months do an annual public, what I would call a review process, where the public is invited in, and the staff is able to tell them where they are in the process and share with them where certain elements of the plan is in place, whether it's on the operational side, the finance side, capital side, what's going on, because it keeps the public engaged. The more the public is engaged, the more they'll advocate for you, which really helps support the political process of moving your plan forward.
Now, I notice sometimes people say we do a 10-year master plan, but then halfway through they realize, you know what, maybe 10 years was too far out. So much has changed. When are the early signs noticing that we probably need to do a reboot of the master plan and kind of maybe regroup the team?
When the economy changes and you got new elected officials, and so when the leadership changes, you got to change the plan, because the leadership isn't going to vote for something they were a part of.
I see.
So you want to update it with new leadership, so they see themselves in the plan and they'll advocate for it. When somebody says, well, that was 5 years ago, I wasn't even a part of that, I'm not interested in that, they're not going to help you any. So the intent is to try to make sure that you're keeping your key leadership, your mayor, especially if you have strong mayors, they want to be included in their vision in your plan. So update as you need to keep them engaged with you.
Yeah. And so how involved are your elected officials, or ideally, how involved do you want your elected officials in this whole process?
Well, certain directors want them highly involved.
Yeah.
Other directors want them to be more not adversary, but supportive in the process, but not necessarily driving it. And it really kind of comes down to how the leadership of the park system relates to the chairman of the council or the president of the council, or and also their traditional backgrounds. If they're city manager driven, strong mayor driven, it changes based on how the city is operating.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of city managers change too. So you have to kind of go with the new city managers as they come in too. So, I think in my opinion, the best systems, if you can keep it within 5 years, you're typically in line or close to, as the political process change and players change, you're able to be ready for that opportunity.
Now, how does this whole process differ from city sizes? So let's say for like the 5,000 person city to the 50,000 to the 500,000, what does that look like, between those different size of departments?
Well, smaller cities can get things done a lot faster.
Yep.
And it's very personality driven. So you can get a lot done in a short amount of time. In a larger system, it's harder to get done. It's a slower process. has a lot more people to have to, and hoops to jump through, and typically a lot more partners. In the larger system, there's always a lot of different partners that need to come along with you to support it. Not nearly as fast, but the impact can be really, really great.
Yeah.
Because smaller systems don't have the money to kind of do what I call really, work that will be here in perpetuity.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a show with Jesus from Austin. He's the director over there. And
Yeah.
Justin was at Atlanta at the time. And one of the big problems that they talked about the big city has are these massive mountains of deferred maintenance that have just piled up to $200 million in deferred maintenance. And it's almost like generation after generation, they just kept kicking it down the hill. And now you've kind of inherited this. How do you help them work through some of those complex issues?
Good data, really showing them what people use and what they don't use. Why repair something that nobody or there's very little use? And this is something that a lot of agencies get hooked up on. Well, we've always had it, but they won't take it out. The intent is build the stuff that people are going to use, and whatever gets done well gets repeated. And the intent is to constantly show the kind of usage behind your facilities. And if you need to change it out, change it out. But I think the big thing is that's been a mistake. I think a big issue with park systems is not really tracking the life cycle of their assets. Everybody likes to build new, but trying to take care of what you just built can be really difficult.
Yeah.
And tracking the life cycle of your system and where they are and what needs to be updated really demonstrates that you know how to manage it to what you're capable of.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what do y'all use to kind of track that along the way? Because, like you said, everybody wants to fund the new thing being built, but a lot of times in those budgets, it's not that 20 years of maintenance that goes along with it.
Well, when the people who are building it, like your contractors, we ask them, their job is to tell us what's the life of this. We know what a life of an air conditioner or a roof is. The same thing applies to playgrounds and to lights on the ball field. And anything that you build has some level, and the people building it, they know pretty much what the life cycle is. And what changes now is the efficiency of the facility or the efficiency of the amenity, like irrigation and system. I'm just making it up, but the intent is everything has gotten improvements which help not only the operations side, but where is it in its life cycle? And knowing that and tracking that, I think, has been something that's been missing in our industry for a long time, that people really doing it well.
Yeah. Now, do y'all ever help them try to understand that whole cost recovery piece?
Yeah, we do a lot of, direct and indirect costing. We do a lot of focus on pricing and revenue generation and revenue development and alternative sources of revenue. So it's not just on the user, but on how to look at earned income. I served on the NRPA Revenue Management School Board out in San Diego for a little over 20 years, and also had spoken at the other revenue school boards. And now NRPA just has one revenue school in Ogilvie. But over the time, that really was one of PRO's strengths, was really looking at alternative funding and how to put it in place. I mean, there's more than 100 ways park systems are funded around the United States. Most agencies use 20, 25 different funding methods. So they don't really look at all the options that are available to them.
Now, what do you see the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see Parks and Rec going, and how people kind of need to plan for this future that's it's changing so fast? It's like who you are right now. You almost have to adjust year to year almost.
Well, I think partnerships are going to continue to be a major component of park systems and what happens in park systems. And the more that you bring in partners, you not only bring in capital, but you bring in advocacy support, and you also bring in operational dollars. I think that that's only going to get better and stronger and more focused. I do think conservancies are going to continue to grow because conservancies can raise money fast, and they are also on the operational side. They're not just giving you the money like a park foundation. They're actually on the management side. And so that also helps park systems. I think that's going to be critical for the future. I also really think that park and recreation people are getting much more business focused than they have. It's one thing to just do a pricing study. It's one thing, it's really looking at the business side of the operation, not only what it takes to operate and maintain it, but how to finance it, but also how to manage the capital side of it and take more of a business approach to the operations than just building it and managing it, but really the full story of it. I think that's going to be really an important thing. And I think designing facilities to produce revenue, earned income revenue. And with these tax caps that people are talking around the country, that's going to be an issue that everybody's going to have to plan to. So you really have to design this stuff to be much more multifunctional than single focused facilities. And I think that's going to be really an important component.
Yeah. All right. So one thing we do at the end of our shows, our previous guest, yesterday's show was Sean DePalma. Mark my word, Brownsville, Texas is going to be one of the next great American cities coming up. They are just doing an amazing job. Of course, they've got space tourism and SpaceX and a lot of big LNG plants that all want to see their Parks and Rec department thrive. And Sean's such a great leader. So anyway, the question he left you, this is kind of a fun question. What was your favorite food that you had over the 4th of July weekend?
Favorite food. My birthday is on the 5th, so consequently, I had a great birthday celebration with different types of cakes. My grandkids were all into giving, so that was fun.
Oh, fantastic! So you just made 35, right?
Yeah, right.
That's it.
I wish.
What question would you like to leave for my next guest? And it can be a fun question. It can be maybe thinking about master planning or whatever you like.
I think the big thing is what people's vision for the future is for the parks and recreation industry. I think people's pulse on where things are always is intriguing to me in relationship to how people see our industry. As an example, girls sports right now is such a big movement. And, in that process, how are we going to deal with the amount of facilities that's going to take to support women's sports, which need to be, but who is willing to share, and how fast can you build new stuff to support the women's movement, young girls movement, which I think is going to be critical.
Oh, it really is. And we were fortunate enough to connect with Jordan Ziff. She's a former pro athlete that played for the Brazilian soccer team, really at the highest level. And when she came back, she wanted to produce a show it's called Her Sports. And she produced a show called The Athlete's Commute that we helped create. And you're right, there's so much stuff going around female sports that we just really didn't have growing up. So it's just great to see them having Parks and Rec departments.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. And it's only going to get better. So
Well, Leon, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I look forward to working with y'all and creating much more great content around that very needed topic of master planning, because it's such a big, heavy lift. But I mean, what was that quote? I can't remember. It was like, a fool with a plan will beat a genius without one any day.
That's so
important to have a plan and a roadmap for your team, and to get buy-in, and to get, those private partnerships going. And so I really appreciate you sharing all that wisdom with us, and hopefully we can create a lot more of this. But,
thanks a lot, Craig. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the show today.
You bet. Thanks. Bye.
All right. So our next, stay tuned. We have coming up at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, John Prue, every Tuesday on the front line. He has a special guest today, Doug Gilchrist. They'll be talking about MWR. For those that don't know, MWR stands for Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. Essentially, this is the Parks and Rec department of our military bases. They'll be talking about a career in MWR and a lifetime of adventure. So don't miss it. Stay tuned. This show airs every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all for attending today's show and staying with us with Leon's journey into Parks and Rec and how he's been serving this community for over 50 years. That's crazy. But really enjoyed him coming on the show, and looking forward to doing a lot more with him. Anyway, y'all have a great day. And as I said before, stay tuned. Just go get another cup of coffee, and John will be with you shortly. See y'all here again tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Love y'all. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.